Hi, welcome to Loft 801. My name is Diego, and today I'm talking about Red One, directed by Jake Kasdan and released on November 15th, 2024. It's an ambitious attempt to blend the festive charm of Christmas with fun action. Starring Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson as Callum Drift, the head of Northpole Security, and Chris Evans as Jack O'Malley, a notorious hacker, they work together to rescue a kidnapped Santa and save Christmas. Now, before I hop into my review, if you want to support the channel, then please take a second to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell. Thank you, I really appreciate it. As a warning, this review will contain some spoilers, so please continue at your own risk. Lastly, if you want to see me review something, don't forget to let me know by leaving a comment and I will do my best to get to it. Thank you. I'm hopping in 3, 2, 1. As I said, the narrative centers on the kidnapping of Santa Claus, played by Simmons, a day prior to Christmas. Jack's sleazy prior work accidentally played a part in Santa's capture, so Callum forces him to help save Santa. One of the things I liked about this movie is the lore it builds upon. Obviously, we all know who Santa is and his workshop at the North Pole. In this movie, the large budget helps show how the North Pole has evolved from a simple workshop hundreds of years ago to a large industrial city. I love that Santa is protected by Mora, the mythological oversight and restoration authority. I also love that Callum is the head of Santa's elf security, which stands for enforcement, logistics, and fortification. It's a fun play on words, acronyms, and world building, which, while I'm talking about lore and world building, I loved the villains. The primary antagonist is Gryla, played by Kiernan Shipka. I love this. Gryla is a mythological character from Icelandic folklore. In this film, she's a huge troll with the ability to shapeshift. She's a winter witch, kind of like the witch from Narnia, except her entire goal is to get rid of every person on the naughty list because they make the world a worse place and should be punished. While I do agree that people on the naughty list should be punished, I don't agree that everybody on the naughty list should be punished or gotten rid of. There are different levels of naughty, and I think people behaving at the worst levels should be the ones that get punished and removed. If you leave your shopping cart in the middle of the parking lot, I'm sorry, pal, you're out of here. I believe every action has a consequence, positive or negative, and that is okay. The other villain is Krampus. There's a lot of lore surrounding Krampus as St. Nicholas's devilish companion. He's a half-demon, half-goat monster from Central European folklore who punishes children that misbehave at Christmas. His character is largely the same in this movie, except he's Santa's estranged brother. It's a bit of a weird choice, but I understand why they wrote his character that way. He's supposed to be the retired villain who now only likes to party it up. He wants to be left out of the Christmas festivities, and anyone intruding on his festivities will pay. I think the coolest parts of this movie were Krampus and when Callum and Jack visited his realm to make sure he hadn't captured Santa. His realm is very gothic, and I appreciated the prosthetics placed on Krampus and his companions. Seeing the cast around him, I understand why the budget was so large. A lot of effort was put into making the characters believably ghoulish. Speaking of the production design, I love the elaborate set pieces to create a fantastical world. I love the different settings from the North Pole to Aruba to Krampus's lair. I understand there was a lot of CGI in this movie, but there was also a lot of effort put into the set designs, and it should be recognized. Contrary to most opinions on this movie, I love the CGI. I thought it was really fun. I loved seeing Callum and Jack fight 3 evil snowmen. I loved how their source of power in life was their noses. Pop that bad boy off and they turn into a regular pile of snow. I also loved seeing the reindeer and their magical powers, especially when Santa led them. Lastly, I loved Agent Garcia, the giant A polar bear. I think he was severely underutilized, and I would have loved to see more of him, even if it meant increasing the budget. The only other thing I really liked about this movie was Chris Evans. I think he's a very fun actor, and I love seeing him in these silly roles where he doesn't have to portray a Captain America persona. He's a talented actor with great charisma, and he's extra fun when he plays into his Johnny Storm personality. As Jack, he's a great deadbeat dad. Moving on from things I loved, there were definitely things I did not love about this movie. For starters, I did not like the dual casting of The Rock and Chris Evans. This is blasphemy to some people, but I don't like The Rock as an actor. He's very rigid, and I feel like he plays the same role in every single movie I see him in. I would love to see him in a role that requires him to actually act, instead of playing the handsome beefcake who can do everything. He kills me as an actor because I know he can probably act. He just always takes on these generic roles. Talk to John Cena and Dave Bautista and get back to me, man. They do great with their acting. Anyways, I didn't like the chemistry, or I guess the lack of chemistry, between The Rock and Chris Evans. I'm sure they're friends in real life, but I don't feel like that energy ever gets channeled in the pair's dynamic. It's very unfortunate because they both have a lot of star power and can typically get people to come to the theaters. Another thing I didn't like about this movie is that it wasn't original. I've seen this premise before. Oh no, something bad happened and we have to fix it or Christmas is doomed. Friend. I've seen it in a Solar Opposites episode, and I'm 99% certain I've seen it in a Family Guy episode too. My complaint isn't really with the lack of originality. It's more so directed at the execution in this film. Despite the star power, settings, and fun CGI, this movie feels so corporate. I don't know how to describe it other than it feels forced and it leaves a bland taste in my mouth. To be fair, I've seen nearly a movie a day for the last 7 weeks, so I'm a little burnt out on movies. With the year wrapping up, I'm trying to watch everything on my watch list this year, and I'm starting to feel cooked. I think that played a role in my negative feelings about this movie. Another thing I didn't like about this movie is how Santa Claus was sidelined. After he was kidnapped, he was put to sleep, and we didn't see him again until the very final scenes of the movie. It's very unfortunate because J.K. Simmons is a great actor and is typically a blast in the roles you give him. In this movie, he's really just a side character. This sucks because he's a buff, brawny Santa. I would have loved to see him put up a fight against Gryla and her henchmen, but no, we get nothing. Another character I didn't really like in this movie was Dylan, Jack's son. He's a troubled teen because he has a deadbeat birth dad. As unfortunate as that is, he has a caring mom and stepfather. I think his character's writing makes it hard to sympathize with him. Not just that, but the acting by Wesley Kimmel didn't convince me that Dylan is a kid who desperately wants his dad's love and approval. While I'm speaking of the writing, I think that's my biggest issue with this movie. The script is kind of weak and relies heavily on star power to keep the film engaging. If you look at a poster for this movie, then you'll see that Lucyliu is one of the main stars, but she's barely in this movie. It's unfortunate because I think this movie has the same issue as Argyle. You show an awesome star like Henry Cavill, and then you barely include them in the movie. It feels like a bait and switch and makes it hard to get into the Christmas spirit this movie weekly promotes. To not end this movie on a negative note, I do want to say I enjoyed the soundtrack. Henry Jackman composed the score, which blends traditional holiday melodies with dynamic action themes. It's good, but it's not like wow. I also want to say that I think the pacing was solid. The movie ran for 2 hours and 3 minutes, and at no point did I feel bored or like the movie was lagging. I think the runtime was great. Any shorter of a movie would have removed the emotional beats from the story, and any longer of a movie would have made the movie drag. So good job on that aspect. Lastly, I want to talk about the budget with this movie. It was a whopping $250 million. That is an absurd amount of money and a huge gamble for a studio. It's hard for me to fathom spending that much money on a movie when gems like Oppenheimer were made for $100 million. I think the heavy use of CGI in this movie made the budget skyrocket. I also think the star power of The Rock and Chris Evans wasn't cheap. I imagine it wasn't cheap for J.K. Simmons either, and that's why he was sidelined. My suggestion for major studios making films like this is to have a tight, extremely tight budget. Some of the best movies I've seen were made because directors and writers had to be very frugal and creative with their writing and spending. When you have such a large budget, you tend to think you're invincible hot shit and spend money where you shouldn't. While this movie is fun, it's definitely flopping at the box office and won't be a Christmas classic. Red One is a mixed bag of high energy, vibrant world building, and a disappointing execution. While the lore surrounding Santa, Mora, Gryla, and Krampus is imaginative, the film has a formulaic narrative and uninspired writing. The production design and CGI are commendable, creating stunning visuals that bring the North Pole and its fantastical elements to life, but they often overshadow the story's emotional core. The casting is both a strength and a weakness. Chris Evans shines in his role as quirky deadbeat Jack, but Dwayne Johnson's predictable performance and their lack of on-screen chemistry hurt the film. I'm not a rock fan, I'm sorry. J.K. Simmons' sideline Santa is another missed opportunity for a fun, dynamic character. The villains like Gryla are memorable, but this ambitious attempt to reinvent Christmas ultimately feels corporate and cliched. While Red One is an enjoyable, lighthearted holiday action movie with a star-studded cast, it has many flaws and is a testament to the risks of overspending in filmmaking. You need to balance spectacle with substance. Thank you for listening to my review of Red One. If you enjoyed the content, leave a like and hit subscribe. If you did not enjoy the content, thank you for sticking around. As always, I would love to read what you have to say, so leave a comment and let me know what you're thinking. Also, if there's something you want to see reviewed, don't forget to let me know by leaving a comment and I will do my best to get to it. Lastly, if you want to see some more from me, then you can check out my vlogs linked up above or my podcast, Goodfriends. Again, thank you for watching. My name is Diego and I will see you next time.